different pieces of our personality. But we'll really talk about how you can also, like, how much is too much to share, how to differentiate yourself, how to create a category of one, which I'll talk about what that means a little bit later. So specifically today, we're going to talk about how to create a brand that positions you as the go-to agent, right? Everybody here is in real estate, so I specifically wanted to cater this. I will be sharing some case studies later of I serve clients across the board in different industries. But since I knew I was going to be in a room full of realtors, I crafted it as much as possible specifically for you, but also covering some other aspects. And then as Dawn mentioned, there definitely will be time for Q&A at the end. I am happy to stay until half past the next hour, whatever time zone you're in. So this presentation should be about an hour or less. And then if you have any questions, just jot them down and I'm very happy to answer any of those along the way. So just to make sure that this is going to give you value today, this is for people who wish to take their business to the next level and be seen as that go-to expert. Like I said, I serve all types of entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, service providers, health and wellness providers, solopreneurs, but also specifically, I've served a lot of real estate agents and so many more. And then last of all is women who want to make a difference with their business and leave a legacy. I am all about legacy, which you'll start to discover today. I'll talk about why that is and why legacy is really important in your brand as well. Well, this is not for people who are not ready. If you're just dabbling in your business, you really don't want to skyrocket it. This will be valuable information for the future. But it's not necessarily for that. Someone who has no idea how they would serve yet, or women who are competitive. I believe in collaboration over competition, which pretty sure if you're in this room, same thing, because you're all surrounded by amazing, powerful women who are doing the same thing. So today we're going to talk about 5 shifts that you need to make to create a remarkable, memorable brand, a missing link to your success that most people don't talk about, how to craft what I call a legacy brand, and then we will talk and have that Q&A at the end. So if you don't already have some paper or a journal, feel free to grab that if you want to jot down your notes and questions. And then before we get started, I also love to know who I'm speaking to. So the last piece, what is your business? I'm pretty sure everybody here is a realtor, so you don't really have to answer that unless you are a multi-passionate. I don't know about you, but there's oftentimes, realty might be like one of your businesses or part of who you are. So if you're multi-passionate, put that in there. But otherwise, I would just love to maybe just share where you're from because we can see your names. So we have Orlando, Florida, St. Louis, Jennifer, Ambres in Washington, Angelica, Los Angeles, Sherman, Texas, Rebecca, North Carolina. Oh, it's going so fast. Oregon, Boston, Seattle, Kentucky, Colorado, Florida. Awesome. We have ladies from everywhere. So fun. Oh, I saw a comedian pass through quick. All over the states. Debbie saying MD. We have an esthetician, Karen, Veronica, New Jersey, Dallas, Texas. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Oh, we even have some Canadians here. I am actually in Michigan myself. I worked out of Chicago for years and years and years, but moved back to Michigan. And so I'm not Canadian, but I feel like I'm close to Canadian. So nice to meet all of you today. Again, I just really think it's important that I know who I'm speaking to. So also feel free to be active in the chat. Again, save your questions till the end only because you saw the chat flying by. I will miss your questions while I'm talking, but if you want to comment, share your insights, please do that along the way as well. I want this to be somewhat interactive and fun. So my promise today is for you to get clarity on where you want to take your brand and business and the exact steps to get there. Now, obviously, branding, I could talk about this for a week straight and we wouldn't cover everything. But my main goal for you is understand why a personal brand is so important and really talk through the shifts to get there. So those will be those exact steps. And to start out, I have a few questions for you. When it comes to branding, perhaps you've thought these things, and just put a Y in the chat if this is something that you've thought. Maybe you've thought you want to be seen as a leader, but there's so many agents out there. So I'm not an agent, but I could raise my hand to this and say, there's so many brand strategists out there, right? So how do you position yourself as a leader? Maybe you've thought, man, the market is always shifting. I'm not sure how to stand out and get known. That's the case in all businesses, but especially in real estate. Like I said, my father's a real estate agent. He's in his 70s now, so he's sort of in there. But, I've heard over the years all the shifts that tend to happen. And so sometimes it's hard to think about, settling down and focusing on one type of person because we never know where things are heading, right? Or maybe that having a strong brand is important, but you haven't had the time to work on it, right? Oftentimes we're moms, we're spouses, we're, business owners, we're all the things. And I think Dawn could attest to this too. Sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, this feels like so important, but I don't have time. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well today and how you can actually create a brand fairly easily and effortlessly if you really put your mind to it. But the real problem, a lot of times we use these thoughts as kind of either procrastination tactics or just like, oh, I can't, niche down. I can't figure out my brand because we haven't walked through these 5 important shifts that we're going to talk about today. So once you can make these shifts, you're going to be able to step into your vision and develop what I call a crave-worthy brand. And Michaela, hopefully I'm saying that right, or Michaela, is I have the time, just feels overwhelming on what is the best way to go. All right, we can cover that too, because oftentimes that's the case. And what I always like to say is, it's because you can't see the label from inside the bottle, right? Oftentimes we're so close to ourselves and our brands, it's hard to have that objective view. Even when I branded myself as a brand strategist, I had to get some outside help because I live with myself all the time. And I have all these ideas and all these thoughts, and it's hard to determine what's the best strategy, what really makes the most sense, and what will I be comfortable with and want to embody, right? So I totally understand that. The goal is then that you will finally be able to, once you understand how to brand yourself personally, you'll be able to attract the clients that you love working with and that are excited to work with you. You can command premium prices, maybe, work in more luxury markets, be seen as a leader and a sought after expert, scale faster, turn your business into an ATM machine, and ultimately save time and money. Because when you have a system for your brand, which we'll talk about later, then you no longer have to toil over, what is my brand? What do I stand for? What do I want to, how do I stand out? What do I want to say? So we're going to be answering all those questions today. So before I truly dive in, really quick, some of you may be on repeat. Like Dawn said, I was here quite a while ago last year, but she asked me to come back because there was positive feedback. So thank you for that, because branding is so important. So in case you missed that, or in case you don't remember, again, my name is Tiffany Newman, and I live, eat, and breathe branding. I went to college for it. I was a professor at my alma mater. I worked in the corporate world with brands like Stoli Vodka, Burt's Bees, FedEx, Chase Bank, Adidas, so many more. And then I had, which I like to say is my favorite profession as a mom, I had my daughter. And I'm guessing a lot of you as real estate agents have made that move maybe because of the freedom. When you're your own boss, we have a special freedom that you don't have when you're working in a 9-to-5. And maybe you're still working in a 9-to-5 as well. I had a transitionary period, but I went full force into serving female entrepreneurs when I had my daughter. And it's went so well that I'm proud to say that I've been featured in Forbes. I'm a contributor for Entrepreneur Magazine. So it's really worked out well for me, and I'm very grateful to say that. So again, I work with women entrepreneurs, a few men thrown in there as well once in a while if they align with my values, but mostly female entrepreneurs that are truly looking to make an impact in the world. So I want to start out with the first thought is, what actually is a brand? You know, we see brands oftentimes as its logos, its colors, its fonts. These are some clients that I used to work with in the past. We see it as these big corporations, right? But what about people like us, small business owners, real estate agents, right? What I want you to think about in personal branding is your brand is actually your identity. And oftentimes, especially as women, we sometimes lose sight of who we are. If you have a profession, you've had children, perhaps you're married, or you've just lived on this planet for long enough, it's easy to kind of serve other people and forget who we truly are. I know I can raise my hand to that. It's taken some time to kind of get back to like, who am I really? And how do I want to present myself to the world? But when you can be clear and confident and have clarity around who you are and present yourself to the world, it really shifts everything in your business. So oftentimes the terms brand and logo are used interchangeably. People think, like I said earlier, of the logo and the colors being the brand, but it's so much more than that. So we're going to talk about that today as well. So now we're going to get into the 5 shifts. And the reason that I talk about these shifts rather than what a lot of brand experts talk about, which is how do you choose the right colors and how do you choose the right fonts? Because you can actually Google that and you can learn about color psychology, and it's not that difficult. Oftentimes I say when you just go pick a logo and colors, it's like putting lipstick on a pig because you haven't really built the foundation of your brand. So I really like to dive into what is the foundation of your brand and what does that look like? What are these shifts? And once you're there, then the visual identity is so much easier to create. Or oftentimes, sometimes maybe you're like, oh, I have my visual brand nailed down and I kind of like it, but maybe your messaging isn't clear and you're not really attracting those clients that you truly like to serve. So the shift number 1 that I like to talk about is letting go. As entrepreneurs, especially as women, we often tend to play it safe. We don't necessarily step into our power. It's easy. We've been conditioned from young ages to kind of follow other people's paths. And you've probably already taken a step out of that because you're running your own business, which is a power move in my opinion, but it's still easy to kind of play it safe, follow the lead. Maybe you see an agent doing really well and you're like, ooh, if it's working for them, it will work for me too. Maybe you're following advice of brand experts whose clients all sound and look alike. But ultimately what this means is we tend to look externally rather than internally at who we really are. We tend to want to show up as who we think other people want us to be. So I'm going to show some case studies here today of past clients just to show you what's possible and how these shifts can actually happen. So this is my client, Elizabeth Hartkey, and this was her beforehand, and she was a health coach. And you can see her brand was very much based on her appearance, how she thought others expected her to be as a health coach. So maybe there's a certain way that you feel like you should be showing up, as a realtor. I don't know, but that could be it. And she was a leader in an industry, and she felt like she also had to act a certain way, but she found herself being burnt out because she was truly showing up as somebody she wasn't. So the answer here, this shift number 1, is to come into alignment. So I believe that the ultimate form of personal development is creating a brand. Sometimes the hardest thing about finding your truth is knowing what that actually is. So in order to do that, you want to get clear on your brand values and your mission. And this will allow you to find that sweet spot between your essence and your ideal client core essence. So we don't have time to go into all of how to do that today, but just write that down as coming into alignment and really letting go of who you think you need to be and being open to letting your guard down and showing up as you truly are. So we changed Liz's mission statement. Before, she was just like, I'm here to help people women lose their weight and reach their health goals. Instead, she really wanted to serve on a higher level and become a leader and help coach people, not just in fitness, but in all areas of their life. So her mission statement we crafted for her was, we elevate successful entrepreneurs into powerful leaders so they can do work that matters. I won't read all these values for time's sake, but once you get in alignment, it creates the foundation for all of the messaging, which is really powerful. And then it also creates alignment. Oh, I think we have some background noise. If you're not muted, that would be awesome if you can try and mute. So basically, it allows you to, like I said, we don't want to put lipstick on a pig. Once you get clarity in your messaging, that starts to align and attract ideal clients, but it also creates and allows for the visuals of your brand to be more on point. So Liz is actually living on a farm in Wisconsin. She has 4 children that she loves. She's really kind of a humble person. And she finally realized that she could show up authentically without posing and trying to be somebody that she's not. So I know it's a little bit different in the health industry, but I still truly believe that it aligns with any industry. So you can see now how her visual brand is now so much more aligned authentically with how she's truly actually showing up in the world. And this allows for then us to actually, we renamed her company rather than her showing up under the umbrella. So she was working for a company called Beachbody. Some of you may have heard of Beachbody. We actually branded Liz as a personality herself and named it the Luminary Leadership Company, Leadership Luminary Co. So this is something I want you to think about as a realtor as well. Oftentimes you show up under, like, you're all in eXp, right? Because you're here today. And you brand yourself under that umbrella. But what does that look like when you actually create your personal brand and show up as yourself? That makes a huge difference, because instead of looking and showing up like all the other eXp realtors, you can actually show up as yourself. And I'm going to show a case study of Dawn in a little bit to show what that looks like too, which I'm excited about. So shift number 2 is establish. A lot of time, especially if women are, well, men too, but if you're a multi-passionate or you have multiple interests, I know some of you in the text said, I'm also, XYZ. Sometimes it's hard to nail down your brand because you're like, well, I do multiple things. How does that all fit together? So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the other thing is, we like to have fun, right? Sometimes we like to have fun playing in Canva and changing our colors, and we often build the plane while we're flying it, right? We're so busy. We're just like, oh, I'm going to just throw this graphic together for Facebook. I'm going to throw these flyers together to send out to people, rather than really kind of slowing down to speed up and taking the time to dial in our brands so we can actually establish ourselves. Because to be seen as a leader, you really have to be established. And oftentimes we see people who've been in the industry for 20 years and we're like, oh, they're established. You can become established very quickly when you are very conscious about it. So that's the last piece as well, is that oftentimes people tend to build their brand unconsciously. And it's not neither right or wrong. It's just because it's not the first thing that they're thinking about, right? So this is a client, Kisma, and you can see that her brand had become very disjointed over time because she DIY'd some things, she hired a VA to do some things, and she realized she was confusing her audience. If you look at the website on the left, it's very subdued and soft and serene. And then on the right side, she had all these different courses and a Facebook group, and that was like kind of wild and out there and almost psychedelic looking. So it's like, is this even the same woman? Like, what is this woman about? I don't know. And again, she didn't do this intentionally. It just happened over time. So what I like to think about is focusing on your brand foundations. So much about branding is actually below the surface. What we see above the surface is the logo, the tagline, the fonts, your maybe branded photos of yourself. But below the surface is everything that's very important in your brand that's not actually aligning, which is maybe why you're not getting the results that you want to get, which is like, what is your personality? What is your brand voice? What is your strategy? What is your brand promise? What are your core values? What is your vision? What is your mission? All of those things, which are not tangible, they're kind of below that surface, we're not necessarily seeing them, are really what builds your brand. So we then worked with Kisma, and again, got clear on her messaging, which was, we hold clients and students accountable for their soul frequency. She's kind of a spiritual leader, so it's a little out there, but she wants people to help reach their highest and best in all ways of prosperity and do work that matters. So before Kisma had those disjointed looks and feels, her messaging wasn't really clear. She had 37 courses online. So if any of you are familiar with online courses, people would go to her website and be like, I don't even know where to start with this woman. Like, it sounds like she knows what she's talking about, but it's very confusing, right? So this is where we really took that brand, which was disjointed. I like to call it Frankenstein, that didn't have a clear message. It didn't have a clear visual presence, and really created 4 distinct brand pillars, a signature framework, and a look and feel that was all her own. So you can see the 4 swashes here in her logo then represent these 4 codes that we developed. So then people know, yes, she has 37 courses, but do I want to need help on my prosperity? Do I need help on my wisdom? Do I need help on my relationship? Where do I need help? And then I can go there. Became very clear on where people could head. And then now you can see that she has a cohesive visual brand. So when people see her specifically online, but as a real estate agent, it might be like, she's showing up in advertisements in magazines and on a billboard and on social media. Everything is consistent and coherent. And people will automatically be like, oh, I know her, it's Kisma, and be able to automatically understand who she is, where she's coming from, and why they should trust her, right? Because the know, like, trust factor is the biggest really thing that you want to focus on in your brand. So people start to see you everywhere and see you as a leader and trust that you are the expert that can help them with their needs. So the next shift is to grow, and I'll do a recap of all the shifts at the end as well. So a little recap for you, but this next shift is how to grow. And this is obviously, as women, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, we always want to grow, right? I don't know why you wouldn't want to continue growing, but it's really important to grow in a strategic way, right? Not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and growing and saying, oh, I think I'm going to take this path. So oftentimes people don't tend to know what to do with their multi-passionate interests, which I talked about earlier. Maybe they don't take the time to tune in. Oftentimes we can continue to swirl in doubt if we're not really getting that clarity. And then sometimes that ends up with us taking and doing nothing instead of taking action, because it's like, I don't know what path to take, right? So we're actually going to talk about Dawn for a minute, because, like I said, she has been a past client, and I wanted to show what this looks like for real estate agents. I've actually worked with a few agents, but I wanted to pick on Dawn today since she's been through the process.
Well, thanks a lot.
Sorry, Dawn. But this is not a bad thing. Like, Dawn had a brand, and it was not a bad brand, but as you can see, she was very focused on eXp, but she did have the loading group and everything. But when she came, and you can maybe talk to this a little bit as we wrap up, Dawn, later, she was like, I've had all this experience, but I didn't really feel like I'm just showing up as my authentic, like who I truly am in my core. Right. And so the thing to think about here, the transition you need to take here is, and this is one thing that nobody else in the industry, I think, I've never heard anybody else talk about from a branding perspective, is again, that branding is the ultimate form of personal development, right? And oftentimes we give up because there is something called the messy middle that tends to happen when you're working through the branding process. Because we have this confusion, we wonder which direction to take. We have all these different ways we could go. And again, you can't see the label from inside the bottle. So what I want you to think about today is it's okay to be okay with the unknown and be open to stepping into your truth. And when you accept that, and when you're like, okay, I'm ready, I want to do this thing, I know it's on the other side for me, and you have a guide to take you through the process, then magic can happen. So Dawn's awesome mission statement now is, I provide a pathway for women to find their passion, follow their dreams, and live their best life. Notice that it doesn't say anything about real estate, because Dawn's vision is now so much bigger than real estate. She's offering a better life to women who want to step into real estate. So some of the big ideas that we got clarity on for her was, we help agents build the business foundation to become powerhouse producers so they can enjoy freedom lifestyle they envision. We are a family of families, and we have fun doing what we love to do. So there's so much fun that Dawn has now brought into the brand. Not that she didn't before, but it's very clear in the brand. So Dawn loves sunflowers, if you didn't already know that. And so we really went full force into that, because this is Dawn. You can see like the bright smile on her face, you like the energy she shows up with. And so we gave multiple versions of her logo and her website. And now, rather than being under the umbrella of eXp, Dawn really has ownership of her personal brand. And her tagline is freedom to flourish. So she's allowing women that freedom to flourish. So not only is she focused on real estate and serving in eXp, but she's showing up to help give women this freedom lifestyle, right? So these are just some other snapshots from her website, which is light and airy and just really inviting and shows Dawn's essence. So sometimes it takes going through that messy middle to really get that clarity and come out on the other side with an amazing personal brand that will attract those like clients. Then we go into shift number 4. We have 2 left, and then a few other things to talk about before we go into the Q&A. So allowing, right? A lot of times, I've said this multiple times, but as women, we're serving everybody else, right? If you have children, we're there for our kids. We are there for our spouses. We're there for our friends, whatever that looks like for you. I know we all have different paths and journeys, but oftentimes we don't allow ourselves as women to invest in ourselves and show up for ourselves. And in order to have a successful business, you need to do that. And I've learned this the hard way. I like to be behind the scenes. I don't like to put myself forward. But if you go to my Instagram now, I'm all over the place. And that's because I allowed it. I allowed myself, I gave myself permission to be the leader, to show up as a business owner, and to step into my power. And that's really my mission for all women, because it's so much easier for us to want to stay behind the scenes. I don't love putting myself out there on social media, but in order to serve others, that's how you get results, right? So it's so easy to compare ourselves to others, to maybe fear standing up for what we believe in, maybe fear of losing what they have already built. So like Dawn has had that other brand for a long time, and she invested a lot in it, but she knew it was time to move to the next level. And sometimes that's the case too. Going through a rebrand can seem a little scary. If you're just starting out, it's like new and exciting, but sometimes you have an established brand and it's like, will people still follow me? Will people still know who I am? But the truth is, you're not reaching your highest potential if you don't allow yourself to do that, right? So this case study is my client, Elaine Liu, and she's kind of the quintessential boss babe from California. She is a first generation immigrant, And she was a career coach, really helping younger females rise up to the top of the ranks of their corporate careers. But she knew she was being called to so much more. And she had developed this brand that was very pink and kind of glam because she thought like this boss babe movement was, she was just kind of copying what other people were doing. And again, that's okay. Like, especially when you're starting out, you don't necessarily know what you don't know. But she was afraid to change what she already created because she was like, I'm kind of known for this in the LA area. People know who I am. She was hosting these live events, but she knew there was so much more calling her. So again, the shift here is really allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to be your authentic self. If you want to attract and create a community and a following, something that's bigger than yourself, you actually often sometimes have to lean into what you're scared of and double down on it. And that's really where I look at things differently as well. Instead of just creating pretty pictures and pretty websites, that core foundational pieces, the pieces that feel a little bit scary to address, is often what's actually holding us back. And once we address it and get clarity, everything else will shift. So instead, Elaine really wanted to show up as her true self, show more of her heritage, help women of color. So we then changed her mission statement to be, actually, she didn't have a mission statement before, to we promote and empower women of all colors to create their own legacy. She really wanted to be known as the go-to diversity and inclusion expert and be a coach for women of all colors and be an ally and really take a grassroots approach and also take her business from being local in LA to global. Here was from that pink, which isn't bad. Like if you use pink in your brand, fine. So we honored her heritage and took colors from her heritage, applied that to the brand, and it just allowed her to show up as a more powerful thought leader. We created the Color Your Dreams movement with the CND making a heart, really showing women standing together. And the really cool thing is I truly believe that people are drawn to create their personal brand in divine timing. So Elaine came to me in 2020. And if you remember what was happening there, yes, the pandemic, but also Black Lives Matter was really important. And so this shift for her was really powerful at that time because more women were needed to step up into that space. So she was able to attract a global community of women of color and allies, and 4x her income within 2 years, partly because of the timing, but partly also she was willing to release those fears around what it took to show up as she truly was, rather than kind of doing what she saw others doing. So that is really the idea of letting go. And then our final shift today is clarity, right? Oftentimes we tend to swirl in that doubt or not take action because we don't have clarity. So many entrepreneurs try to figure it out all alone. You have so much to offer or know that you're doing things in a unique way, but continue to struggle because you don't spend the time. And like I like to say, slow down to speed up to get clarity. I don't know about you, but you can put a Y in the chat. Maybe you tend to overthink or have perfectionist tendencies. That's super common, especially with your brand. You want it to be just right. And like I mentioned before, it's so easy to compare ourselves to each other and get stuck. So this is where, like you're doing with eXp, like you're doing in Power Girls, I suggest investing in mentoring to get results. Like I said earlier, you cannot see the label from inside the bottle, and you're too close to your business to have an objective view. Now, of course, I'd love to help each one of you create a local brand, but I only have so much. So I do obviously work with self. I have a program coming up next month where I'm going to be guiding women through branding. So definitely connect with me if that's something that you'd like to discuss. But even if it's not with me, I truly highly recommend working with an expert to walk through all of these shifts fully, because that's where, an expert guiding you through the process will help you get from where you are now to where you want to be 10 times faster. Now, of course, there's always an investment, but if you want to take those shifts 10 times faster, I truly recommend investing in a mentor. And here's a few more examples of different types of women on their journey. Some of the ladies I showed you today, a lot of the ladies were in rebrand mode and they'd been established. So I want you to also understand that even if you're brand new in business, you can create a really powerful brand. So all of these women are brand new in business. This was their first really investment into their business, and that is possible as well. All right, so just a few more things, and then we're going to dive into some final thoughts and question and answer. We're doing great on time. The last thing I want to talk about, on top of all those shifts, are really important. And like I said, the way I approach things is different because I'm looking at it from more of a mindset perspective. Once you realize how important mindset is in our business, right? You can raise your hand to that if you agree. So there's strategy, but then there's those shifts that we need to go through. But a big missing piece is differentiating yourself from others. When you're surrounded by so many other people in realty, again, watching my dad do this, it's all about relationships, right? And when you can differentiate yourself and create those relationships, create a referral network, but also stand out from the rest of the crowds, you really have to dig deep and get clarity so you can make those 5 big shifts and create a magnetic brand. So this is what I call creating a category of one. How do you stand out and be seen differently than everybody else? So this could be, like Dawn with her sunflower and her personality and her big heartwarming self out there. I helped my cousin, who's also a real estate agent, rebrand, and she loves to kayak and be barefoot, and she has a Subaru. And so we helped her rebrand as really like this natural, fun-loving person. And she talks all about herself in that way. So really taking your personality and infusing it and becoming a personal brand, a category of one, not just under the umbrella of eXp, is what's going to help you stand apart. And that's called also creating a niche. So not having a niche results in struggling with clarity, consistency, and confidence. Your ideal clients may not be attracted, and sometimes that causes you to lose steam and not be as courageous as you were when you started your business. So clarity will really help you move forward with it. So again, my promise to you at the beginning of this presentation was clarity on where you want to take your brand and business and the steps to get there. So I hope those 5 shifts were helpful for you to think through, like, what elements do I really need to add to my brand? And it's going to be different for each of you watching today. Some of you may be like, oh, I need new messaging, or I need to niche down, or maybe I need new visuals, or I need a new website. That may be different for everybody. But the last thing that I really want you to think about today is, what is your legacy? What do you want to be known for? And what do you want to leave behind? And that could maybe be, if you do have children, you want to leave a legacy for your children. And if you don't, that's fine too. What do you want to leave behind and be known for your community, for, your livelihood that you've created? So legacy brand is something that I've actually trademarked and created, which is a brand that creates trends, not follows them. It turns your business, like I said, into an ATM machine because your message is clear and impactful. It simplifies your life because it has heart and soul. It tells your story in a simple and beautiful way. So that's another really important thing to think about, is what is your personal story? Why are you in real estate? Why are you serving people? It's more than just, hey, I'm here to make money and sell you a home, right? And you probably maybe already have that, but when you can simplify and sell based on your personal story, that also really is what's going to resonate with people as well. And ultimately, a legacy brand reveals your uniqueness to the world and has people saying yes to what you offer, and it stands the test of time. So if you noticed, you probably didn't, but those shifts that we went through today actually spell the word legacy. So to recap, the first shift is let go. The second shift is establish that solid foundation. The third shift is grow, which means to lean into what you're afraid of and maybe what you're questioning. The fourth shift is allowing, trusting the process, and allowing that messy middle, that confusion that can sometimes happen, and working through it. And then last is connect. Really connect with a mentor that can help you step into that clarity, confidence, and cohesive brand. And ultimately, at the tip of the pyramid, that is what I call your legacy brand, which is a celebration of your amazing brand. So there's some phases. Again, I want to make sure that you walk away with the steps to get there. So whether you want to work with somebody like myself or go and find somebody else or even attempt to do it on yourself, I want you to know that most people skip to phase 5, which is integration. These are what I consider the 5 brand phases. So we have the 5 shifts that you need to create, which is more mindset driven. These are the actual steps that you need to take to create a magnetic brand. Most people go to integration, which integration is, which we'll see in a minute, the visuals of the brand, right? So it's like putting lipstick on a pig, and they skip out on the foundation, the brand story, architecture, and personality. So I'm going to quickly show you what all of these are so you understand, if you haven't yet built a brand in this way, how it works. So then you can do it. If you're just starting out, you know now, or if you're like, oh my gosh, I've never done this, you can kind of go back and reinvent yourself. So the brand foundation is really what we focused on today. It's getting clarity on your vision, your values, your voice, your mission, your promise, your power, your purpose, right? This is really like, who am I? What do I stand for? How do I differentiate myself? So you saw that in all of those case studies today. Phase 2 is your brand story. This is something that I create for all of my clients, which is like a 20-page document that really talks about, not only those first foundational pieces, but who is your target market? Are you trying to sell to everybody, or are you really clear on that niche that you're selling to, that when they hear you speak, they're going to say, that's my woman because she's speaking my language, and I know that she is the one I want to work with. What is your brand voice? What is your brand story? How does that work? So like I said, I don't always work with men, but this couple, Steve and Azul, really, I love this quote from them, which is why I included them, is the brand manual has breathed life into their brands. This is a document that you can go back to time and time again. If you don't know what to post on social media, I don't know about you, but social media can be the bane of my existence, of like, oh my God, I have to post again. I don't know what I'm going to say. You have a document that's really in depth, and, Dawn can attest to this. You can open it up and be like, oh my gosh, I have these big ideas I can talk about. I have my taglines. I have all of these things. I have my brand story that I can pull out and talk about and not have to think about it anymore. Your brand story is really important. It's really the narrative of who you are, who you're serving, and who you're working with. Next is brand architecture. So this is getting that clarity and cohesiveness, making sure your entire brand, every touch point is cohesive, looking at your personal signature story and your brand pillars. So just a really quick look at Peggy Hoover. This was, I don't have her before, but her after. It's like thinking about how you're showing up. What is your personality? Just from this quick glance, now Peggy actually is in real estate, but she's also a coach. She does both. And she wanted to be seen as a very high-end selling. She's in Colorado. She sells these luxury, luxury lifestyle, basically. And so you can see right away that her architecture is based on that. Some people are more fun-loving and laid back from the other pieces I saw there. So I just wanted to show you another quick look that once you get clarity on that foundation, you can create an architecture that will immediately grasp the attention of the target market that you're speaking to, right? Then you have your brand personality. So oftentimes for myself, I've gotten to the point where I'm busy enough serving clients, I don't have to always create my own social media posts. I have a team that helps do that. I have a virtual assistant. I have other people. Now, when I first hired a copywriter to help me, she sent me back this stuff and I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. It doesn't even sound like me. And that's because I wasn't clear on my own voice. So that's why I also make sure that everybody walks away with their brand personality intact. Because when you get clear on your own voice, who you are, who you're not, how you want to talk. Are you going to swear? Are you not going to swear? Are you going to, what is your language? You can actually outsource that and spend your time in your zone of genius. So you really want to get clear on your personality as well. And then the last piece, this is the important part, like I said, brand integration. This is where most people jump to. They get their brand guide, they look at colors and fonts, they get their neighbor's brother to make them a logo, whatever that looks like. They launch it, they put it out there, they put it out there. But like this quote says about Sir Richard Branson, design is not just what it looks and feels like. Design is how it works. So if you walk away with anything today, I want you to remember that these 4 phases are very important before you go into phase 5. And again, if you jumped into phase 5 and that's you and you're raising your hand, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Just know that you can go back and go through those first 4 phases, because oftentimes if you have a brand that you don't totally love, that's why. And it's just because we don't know what we don't know. If you didn't live, eat, and breathe branding like me, I wouldn't expect you to know these things. And that's why I'm here today, educating you on that. So last piece is just type in the chat legacy if you want results like these. As you saw, the clients that I work with get results. So I really want you to think about not just creating a brand, but creating a legacy brand. So I'm happy to go into Q&A and answer any questions that you have. Questions about anything we covered today, questions about colors, anything that you'd like. And then just a reminder, the 4 keys to success is, first of all, that clarity on where you're heading, willingness to stop doing what doesn't work, taking inspired action towards your vision, and hiring an expert to guide you. So if you'd like to learn more about creating a legacy brand that lasts a lifetime, my website is yourlegacybrand.com. We can connect on Instagram at TiffanyNewmanCreative.com. I also have another workshop coming up, which has some crossover to what we talked about today, but I will drop that in the chat. If you'd like to learn more, I have a workshop coming up early February. And I also have a quiz on the website if you'd like to take that as well. So whatever feels good to you. If this is calling to you, connect. Otherwise, I hope that you received value. My goal was just to show up and provide value today. So hopefully that's the case. And now we can go into Q&A, and I'm happy to serve you in whatever way I can.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. You know what? You are such a great presenter. This is just a great presentation and a great reminder. I want to add a couple of things because I've been through your entire program. And so I just want to say a couple of things. And I've been a real estate agent for over 20 years. So that first 10 years, it was literally friends and family and a billboard and word of mouth, and it just happened. And so that was how I was sustainable that first 10 years. But once the internet hit and our marketing had to change, and I got on board with that pretty early. So I was doing all of the internet stuff. And then social media hit, and it's like, okay, well, now we got to jump over here. So as real estate agents, we are entrepreneurs. And I feel like that is one of the biggest pieces that a lot of real estate agents don't get, is that you now have a small business and you don't just go open doors and show houses. We have to promote ourselves. And a lot of us need coaching, training, or specialists to come in and help us figure out what we need to do so that we help build our confidence. And I think that's a huge piece too, that a lot of real estate agents are missing, is that confidence piece. And one of the things that one of your programs, Tiffany, did for me was just really help me build that confidence. And I remember, and I have a quick story really quick, since we have a little bit of time and we could go over, but that sunflower, when you guys saw my sunflower, let's jump back about 5, 6, 7 years. I was scared to death to put a sunflower in my logo because I was so afraid of what people were going to think of me. And that is lack of confidence, low self-esteem, whatever it is. I don't have that anymore. Your going through your program really helped me to build that confidence, to find my place, to find my message, to find myself. And, it made a huge difference in how I was able to have conversations with clients as a realtor. So it really does help you to build your confidence. And now I'll put that sunflower all over the place. It's in everything. It has special meaning to me. And I only want to work with the people that I connect with. And once I got that, I was like, okay, well, this is going to draw the right people in. I am not kidding. Every listing appointment I started going on, sunflowers were somewhere in their house. And so it just gave me something to really connect on. And it's not an overnight process, you guys. We can't just go to one thing and figure out what our brand is. It's a constant thing that we work on, and I still work on today. So anyway, with all of that being said, I think that was it. Clarity was the biggest piece for me. So any questions? If you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. You could raise your hand in Zoom, or you could just start talking.
Well, I thought, oh, this is Karen. My picture's not up
Karen.
there. I said, hi. I thought I had a brand. Now I'm lost. So now it's like, okay, I need to start over. I need to have it be more clear with both of my businesses, with aesthetics and real estate, so they kind of are cohesive.
Yeah, that's a big one. I thought I had a brand too.
I have a question for you, Dawn.
Yes.
How long did it take you to go through the process? Like, is it a month's process from where you started to where you ended?
It's been a couple of years since I went through all of this with Tiffany, and I'll say I was ready for some instant results. I was ready to, I thought I'm going to get this program, and I went a little advanced with everything that I did, and not everyone needs to be there. You really need to reach out and have a one-on-one with Tiffany to find out where it is you need to jump in and what you need to do. And after that, decide if that's the right fit for you. So once I started though, and I got that brand manual and it had all of that information. Well, first of all, you've got to do the work and dig deep within yourself in order to attend the trainings. And it was several weeks that took. So every week I had more homework to do the work, but she had the right questions she was asking to help me figure this out. And it was just amazing. And so, that step to get that brand guide was a process of, I believe, 12 weeks. So it takes a minute, but you have ideas along the way that help you. And when you're done, and then you're just like, go for it. So she has different programs though. So you guys have to reach out and have those one-on-ones. But as far as this recording today, you could go back and replay this over and over and kind of do this on your own. I know a lot of you, need help, and it ends up being a little bit more confusing, but it's a process. So it's not going to happen overnight. I'm 2 years in and I'm still going. But I realize there's no end. I'm not ever going to be finished. I'm just not done yet. And it evolves every single year.
Okay, Dawn, this is Yvette DeMaria from Charleston, and I'm so glad that you just said that, because So, new agent, but not new to business, built my own business for 12 years that is at home. So real estate is just the next step of my journey. Got a coach 1 month in after my license because I realized nobody was going to hold my hand through this. And I needed somebody who knew how to be an agent who was going to hold my hand. Huge boost of confidence because now we're coming into 2023 and I have agents, girls, ladies, I have agents that have been agents for 30 years, but because of my professionalism, they see my brand with eXp. They see I can hold trainings, do PowerPoint, do Eventbrite organization, get events going and get people attending. I now have teammates, but we're not really a team. We're just co-brokering and co-listing together. Y'all, I'm an agent that really has only been an agent for 4 months because once I got my license last January, I got diagnosed with cancer. So I had to battle that for 8 months, not knowing because it affected my eyesight. I was blind in this eye. I can now see out of both eyes again. So we did not know that was going to happen. So again, my brand is evolving because now I'm including, I just beat cancer, y'all, and I'm
That's
back.
a whole story for you to connect on, and it's a
Right.
great one.
Right.
And storytelling is huge with social media, and we have to live out loud. We have to.
Yes. So that is where I'm at, Dawn, is I'm at this point of it's scary because, here I was a new agent. I didn't want to tell people I'm battling cancer, right? But I kept doing my phone calls because I had my mouth and I could cover up one eye and see with this one. So I kept my lead gen going. My pipeline is now starting to explode in year 2. And now I'm coming in and going, yeah, well, you know how I was a little bit gone last year? Well, I was battling cancer and they're
It's definitely an ongoing process for sure.
Yeah. So I'm
It
glad
evolves.
I'm glad I was in this. I'm glad I got the invitation because it showed me that this is an evolving process.
Yes, it's an evolving business and you've got to go with the punch.
Right.
You've got to roll with the punches, the ups, the downs. The reason there are so many real estate coaches is because we need coaching. You do not know what you do not know. And if you don't know how to manage your money, you need a money coach. If you do not know how, if your self-esteem is not where it needs to be, you need to get in a group. And there's all kinds of different levels of coaches, every price point and whatever, but you've got to first figure out where you are, ladies. Like, where are you? You've got to get real with yourself. And the branding and the first thing that Tiffany does is one that will help each of you. I highly, highly recommend it because it will make you dig deep to figure out what your story is. So
yeah, I want to add to that, Dawn and Yvette. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I think that's so impactful for everybody to hear. So thank you. And also, let's see, Sophie had a good question too. I'm going to kind of speak to both of those at the same time. She's saying, what if your vision of your brand is not where you're at? Like for me, it's be able to work from wherever I'm at and be with my kids, but I'm definitely not there. So true. So this is huge. Kind of what you were saying, Yvette, like you muscled through. My goal is to help everybody brand for. The first thing we do is really look at what is your vision? Where do you want to be 3, 5, even 10 years, wherever your vision capacity takes you. Everybody's a little different. And then we look at that vision, we reverse engineer it and create the brand for where you want to be. Because what often happens is people brand for where they're at now, which makes them constantly reinvent their brand because they're constantly evolving. But when we can position you for where you want to be, reverse engineer it, that allows you to grow and evolve into the brand. So it's really beautiful because if somebody wants to be seen as an expert in their field, we position you like that now. Like it's not really, I don't want to say fake it to make it because that's not the case. But it allows you to have that confidence by claiming this is where I want to be. And then you actually end up in that space so much faster. Like I've only been in business for 4 years. I had being featured on Forbes and being an entrepreneur contributor. I was like, oh, maybe in like 10 years, 15 years. but I positioned myself as a leader, as an expert. And I got featured in Forbes within 2 years. It was insane. And like, not my intention, but I had it on my vision board. I positioned myself for it and it happened. So that's really speaking to what you're asking, especially Yvette and Sophie, like, if you're not there, that's okay. And the whole point is to position yourself and then you can get there. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Any other?
You had two. Was that both of them? Both points? You said 2 points.
Oh, I think I was just answering both of their
Okay.
points together is what I meant.
All right, great. You know,
Yeah.
you talked about, or someone, I don't know, you talked about vision boards. I'm actually hosting a vision board class in February for anyone that wants to go to it. If you'll just PM me in Workplace, I will get you on that list. I haven't created any of the stuff for it, but that is huge. I love vision boards and I need to redo my own because I've already done everything on it. And I say that every year because it seems like my goals that I set, I achieved them. And I love that. And yeah, it's just, I love what we're doing. And you know what? Something else needs to be said about all the doom and gloom that's out there right now. I know that the real estate market is different, but those of you who will work on your business this year and get the things set up and focus on that vision, you will be the ones that survive and have the business set up. I went through this back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, like all those years. And I never gave up. And so, you know, it might get hard, but there's still people buying and selling houses. So just, you have to be one of the ones that gets noticed, one that shows up, and one that is positive about where you're going. So, all right, if that's it, if we don't have any more questions, then Tiffany, I am so grateful for you. We only went 10 minutes over today, so I'm going to put this in the recording. One more time, would you please put in the chat the link to the workshop that you were talking about, because we've moved a lot, and also your website.
Yeah, okay.
Can you,
Here's
Oh,
I
I
was
have a
hoping if
question.
you could just give us some pointers on colors, that'd be so cool.
yeah, do you have a specific question about colors? Because there's a lot that I could
Just
speak
in general,
to.
how you could help us hone in like the scheme that we should go for.
Yeah, well, like I said, I really think it's important to figure out your foundations first, because if you just grab a color, that could mean anything. So I would really recommend getting that clarity on who you are, who you're heading, but also color psychology. So like, you know, trust is really brought out by blue. Red evokes action, but it also evokes hunger and anger. So you really want to look into the psychology of colors and how you're showing up in that way. And then also your personality is really big. So a really quick example here is I had this client named Ina. She was amazing, like this powerhouse woman when I met her, but I went on her website, kind of similar to the Kisma example I shared, and her colors were like baby colors, like light blue and light pink. And I was like, this is so interesting. Like, you seem really powerful and out there, but this is there. And she goes, you know what? We talked it through, and she realized that her parents had always told her, Ina, calm down, Ina, quiet down. She thought she needed to show up as this quiet, subdued person because she was showing up too much. So we actually rebranded, and now her colors are bright pink and black, and she's like really bold and out there. So it really depends on each specific person, but those are some kind of ideas around color psychology, but then also like, who are you innately? And lean into that, because those colors are representative of who you are and how you're showing up, and those will attract the people that you want to work with. So that's a quick synopsis. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there is so much more to it, right? Like just with mine and putting the sunflower and seeing it now, I just get excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love my logo. And I don't care what anybody thinks, it fits me. And it looks good on my website. My colors look great. I love it all. All right, ladies, that's it. So thank you so much, Tiffany. Have a great day and see you next time.
All right. Bye, ladies. Thank you for having me in this space today.
Thank you.